The first one says Vice President Harris was never appointed border czar. There's never been such a position. It doesn't exist. Why are Democrats so sensitive about the vice president and the border?
Why are Republicans so sensitive about actually not owning up to them getting in the way of a border deal? Why? Why won't they own up to that? Why won't they own up to the last president told them not to move forward? It was a bipartisan deal on just right there, available to them, and they voted twice against it.
I guess this is the MAGA plan to campaign on the border that former President Trump was so hell-bent on creating. Peter Doocy as the spokesperson for border politics. We're talking Republicans' failed policy of inaction on this watch list.
Do you think that the border would be less of a talking point now if there was less migration to the border, say if somebody had addressed root causes of migration sooner?
Wait, hold on a second. Did you not hear the beginning of I know there were a lot of toppers, but one of the toppers, I talked about what we're seeing at the border. It's down by 55%, not because of Republicans in Congress and what they did. It's because what this president and this vice president did. He moved forward and took actions to deal with what's going on at the border. Republicans continue to block getting resources to the Border Patrol agents. They continue to block actually dealing with an immigration system. So yes, we are going to debunk the false characterization of the vice president. She was not a border czar, and it's not just us. Independent fact checkers have said the same thing, that did not exist, and that is not true.
Who needs independent fact checkers and evidence of a border policy working when you got a former president that threatened every Republican to leave the issue alone so they can run on it?
Kamala Harris knows what she needs to do. I was there. I gave her all of the policies that she needed. All of them. And she refused to implement them. She does not care about you. She does not care about the safety of this country. He does. This is the man for the presidency.
Thank you. Wow.
If this reckless plan to halt border policy in order for Trump to use it as a weapon against Vice President Harris was thought out better, MAGA should have avoided using Brandon Judge there. He's the president of the National Border Patrol Council, and before he was lending his voice to Trump at rallies, he was telling the truth about the border bill that his hero made sure to shoot down.
I understand politics, and I can understand why Republicans would go against this for political purposes. I get that. There is that aspect to it. This bill transcends administrations. This will go beyond Biden. It will go beyond Trump. It will go beyond the next president. So I'm looking at this from the standpoint of we need something that is going to continue to go past and not just executive orders. There are plenty of weaknesses in here, but there's also a lot of strengths. And when you look right now what we're currently dealing with, this is a slow month, and we're dealing with 6,700 apprehensions on a daily basis. What this would do is it would cap it to where we couldn't take anything more than 5,000. Now, this does not say that we're going to release 5,000 people into the United States. In fact, it's the exact opposite. It says that we will hold single adults in custody. They will not be subject to release.
I know a lot of Republicans are against it because Donald Trump is against it. But here's the problem for you guys. The Border Patrol Union came out, and the acting CBP chief both came out and said it's not perfect, but this is the best thing we've seen in decades. So are Republicans going to say that the Border Patrol Union and the acting CBP chief are wrong?
I guess when Donald Trump tells you to stop telling the truth in exchange for 2 minutes on stage at a rally, dishonest people like Judd get excited to do it. It's not even as if Judd was the only conservative that was pulling their hair out over Trump telling Republicans to pass on what they deemed the solution to the problem.
I think the former president had sort of mixed views on it. We all felt that the border was a complete disaster, myself included. And Chad, you remember covering the phases we went through. First, there was an effort to make law, which requires you to deal with Democrats. And then a number of our members thought it wasn't good enough. And then our nominee for president didn't seem to want us to do anything at all. That took months to work our way through it.
Even Mitch McConnell, who makes sure to never criticize Donald Trump out of fear of hurting his party's chances of winning elections, he couldn't help but to admit that Congress's failure on border policy was exacerbated by the former president's call to do nothing about it. The only way these liars expect Americans to believe that they care about solving problems is for voters to forget about all the things that they said and did.
We're not going to let this opportunity pass without doing everything we can to secure the border.
The situation at the border, southern border, will not be fixed. Even though Republicans continue to call it a crisis and a national security threat, they again refuse to back the conservative-leaning bill that would try to address the problem. All but one of them voted against it. The second time this year, they blocked the immigration legislation crafted in large part by one of their own.
I will vote no.
Mr. Cornyn, no.
And it's embarrassing. They rest easy knowing that supporters will follow their narrative because when the boogeymen that they've built up from opposing parties tell them the truth, they refuse to believe it.
Work with the President of the United States. The President put out a plan, responsibility of the executive to put out a plan, and they refused to negotiate. They refused to take action. And two of the biggest cowards were people like Lindsey Graham, people like Marco Rubio, were part of the Gang of Eight in 2013, had the courage of their conviction to work with Democrats to address this issue. The President of the United States was willing to do that. They said no, and he still stuck with it, had a bipartisan deal that he negotiated that addressed a lot of their concerns. He moved farther than most, and Trump refused to do it because he wants it to be an issue tonight. He wants it to be an issue over the next many nights through this campaign for political benefit, period, full stop.
I could show the author of the bill, Republican James Lankford, for the 12th time, agreeing with President Biden about the elements of the plan that Republicans refused to accept because the Messiah told them not to. I could show you that he admitted to Neil Cavuto that he understands that Trump tanked the legislation because he's focused on using it for the election. Lankford also went on the Senate floor and revealed that a conservative pundit threatened to destroy him if he kept up with all this problem solving that would kneecap Trump's ability to artificially blame Democrats for a problem that he wanted to keep alive. You know what? For shits and giggles, let's just show it again so that Peter Doocy's lies are even more stark.
In November, my team began serious negotiation with a bipartisan group of senators. The result was a bipartisan bill with the toughest set of border security reforms we've ever seen. Oh, you don't think so? Oh, you don't like that bill, huh? That conservatives got together and said it was a good bill? I'll be darned. That's amazing. That bipartisan bill would hire 1,500 more security agents and officers, 100 more immigration judges to help tackle the backload of 2 million cases, 4,300 more asylum officers, and new policies so they can resolve cases in 6 months instead of 6 years now. What are you against?
Did Donald Trump kill this for you? He said Republicans who even consider voting for this should be ashamed of themselves. What did you think of that?
Obviously, he's got a campaign that he's running. He's focused in on trying to be elected president. Again, my focus is a national security focus. I'm the ranking member on border management for Homeland Security. That's my main focus, is to get that. We have a wide open border, and we've got to find a way to be able to stop it.
You're a real gentleman about this, and I know you're not trying to zing your colleagues, but it's your colleagues in your party, sir, who torpedoed this, who didn't get the facts right on what you just outlined was in that measure. They killed it. Ironically, not Democrats.
Right. It was, and it was painful to be able to watch it. It got stirred up in all the presidential politics, and several of my colleagues started looking for ways. After President Trump said, don't fix anything during the presidential election. It's the single biggest issue during the election. Don't resolve this. We'll resolve it next year. Quite a few of my colleagues backed up, looked for a reason to be able to shoot against it, and then walked away.
That's on Donald Trump, Senator.
That, again, he's got an office that he's running for. He's got a campaign that he's running. I'm already in office. I've got a responsibility to be able to carry on this. In fact, I had a popular commentator 4 weeks ago that I talked to that told me flat out, before they knew any of the contents of the bill, if you try to move a bill that solves the border crisis during this presidential year, I will do whatever I can to destroy you. Because I do not want you to solve this during the presidential election. By the way, they have been faithful to their promise. and have done everything they can to destroy me.
I wonder if it'll even work. I don't know. Maybe Chip Roy's anger towards his fellow Republicans' lack of action will make sense this time.
Another member of Congress resigned today. So now I'll be told, Chip, we only have a 1-seat majority or 2-seat majority. I don't even know what it is anymore. Let me ask you a question. Does it matter? In 2018, we had the House, we had the Senate, we had the White House, and we had a bigger majority than we have today, and we utterly failed to secure the border. Totally dropped the ball. Didn't do it. One thing. I want my Republican colleagues to give me one thing, one, that I can go campaign on and say we did. One. Anybody sitting in the complex, if you want to come down to the floor and come explain to me one material, meaningful, significant thing the Republican majority has done besides, well, I guess it's not as bad as the Democrats.